Hey everybody, Todd Mitchell here. Welcome back to Game Dev Breakdown. This time we're talking to my friend Shammi Mohamed, who I met over on the Swell app, which is a new social media app. We are just two technology-loving folks who ran into each other on a new website. But imagine my luck running into somebody saying I run a podcast about game development, and he says, I've been a game developer about 20 years. I've worked at Microsoft, I've been an indie, and I've worked at Tesla. I said, please come on this podcast, and that's exactly what happened. So Shammi's going to entertain us with stories that, who else could we hear this stuff from? So very cool. I won't hold us up. Let's get to it.
Good evening, fans. Tim Kitzrow here, the voice of NBA Jam, and you're listening to the Game Dev Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by CodeWritePlay.com. Whoa, boom shakalaka.
My mom gave birth in 1985. I was bluer than a Pac-Man ghost, barely alive. In the Cold War, my only blanket was Tetris. I played Rampart with Reagan, rampaged the world for breakfast. The laundromat was my sanctuary, that arcade was my church. I thought I was Rastan.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you. Hold on, let me stop my video. There.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Thanks for calling.
Oh, no, anytime. No problem.
What are you up to this morning? Are you working today?
Yeah, I'm working. I'm definitely working.
Sure. I do think it's very cool you're working at Tesla. How long has that been going on?
It's been 2 years, actually. 2 years.
2 years. So that's a while. That's pretty good. How are you liking it?
Oh, I love it. From having been in the industry for 20 years, and Turn 10 was a great place, yeah. But Tesla is quite something. And Elon's kind of mentality is comes down into the culture of Tesla. It's all about really moving fast and getting things done, really, and removing any bureaucracy in the way. It's unbelievable about how he's religious about that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why Tesla is being able to achieve so much.
Can you answer this? Have you gotten to meet Elon?
No, I haven't. I can't answer. I can't answer that. I haven't gotten to meet Elon. I came pretty close though. It's meeting Elon's like a double-edged sword. He's. I'm a big fanboy, you can say, and that's one of the reasons why I joined Tesla. But then I'm always so worried that I might say the wrong thing in front of him. And I might be starstruck sometimes, right? So I don't know if I want to meet him or not. One part of me wants desperately to meet him. One part of me is like, oh, hold off on that.
Yeah. And you've worked at Microsoft too, so this is probably not the first time you've sort of had those thoughts.
Microsoft was a much bigger organization and also a lot more, it's not as flat as Tesla. That's the way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm two away from Elon, right? So in the reporting hierarchy, and not because I'm high up, it's because I'm an individual contributor. That's the way Elon likes it. 2 or 3. My manager is 2 away from Elon, to be precise. So I'm 3 away from Elon. Yeah.
Still, that's pretty fantastic for such a well-known organization. That's pretty great.
Yeah. So I think that this I can talk about is one of the things why Tesla is so cool is usually when things need to be done, Elon directly reaches out to my manager and he tells my manager, can you do this? Or he'll usually forward a tweet. And then my manager will forward that email to me and say can we get this done? And that's the order of operations. Compared to something else where you have all these layers in the middle, you got to get approval, or it comes through a whole chain of command, and by the time the message is distorted or what needs to be done, and there's people in the middle wanting their own agenda. None of that, right? It's like Elon just says I need this done, or literally he'll sometimes forward this customer is asking for this from a tweet, right? And he'll say can we get this done? And one of the reasons I didn't want to meet Elon is once you meet Elon, you're almost on a one-to-one basis. He will skip my manager and he'll directly reach out to me. You don't want to be there, actually.
I wondered about that. I wondered if you meet him, is he one of those guys who will go, hey, I know somebody who I can, hit up about this?
He does not believe in bureaucracy, right? All of that. And it's a beautiful place to be if you're really into tech and really want, usually you hear this same story in even creative industry, like games industry, is the suits versus the creatives, right?
Right.
They always have this tension amongst them. And if you're like in the creative or you're a tech person, this is a great place to be because you just get stuff done and it's not none of those extra cruft is there.
I love that agility in an organization. That's really nice because it's very hard to find. People say they're agile, and that just means a different collection of bureaucratic practices they have, you know.
And that is another thing that I find very impressive about Tesla is like all my, throughout my game dev career, we've always been pushed towards agile. They've been striving to adopt agile. It's a new in thing, right? And everybody does their Scrum. They do, and what I've seen is all the optics of agile get carried out. We do the stand up. We do the whole Kanban board. We move our stickies from slot to slot in the Kanban board, and all of that. But eventually, it always boils down to a waterfall kind of release schedule because that's what eventually it is. In Tesla, we don't do any of the optics. None of that. It's just people just go do, but everything flows like agile, and we have agile results. We release an update almost every month, and that's the way it is.
That's pretty cool. Something that interested me about you, for anyone curious, we connected on the app Swell, and you found that because you're just a genuinely technologically interested guy. Like you seem to keep up with technology anywhere you can. So you were checking out this new app, and I did the same, and we found each other there. So I mean, how are you liking Swell so far?
Yeah, I love Swell. A small thing about Swell. One of the founders of Swell is a very close, good friend of mine. And that was one of the reasons why I got on Swell really early on. In fact, I was there on day one when they went public, I think. Yeah, and that was. But otherwise, also, I'm usually curious, and I usually check out stuff, like you said. Yeah. Lately, I've had massive mistrust in social apps, and I steer clear of social apps, and have been trying so hard to like not get engaged excessively in social apps because I've found over the course of years them to be more detrimental to just not my life, but like, you know, in general, overall. And out of principle, I usually don't. But Swell, because it was a founder, the friend was a founder, I kind of went in to check it out. But what I was really surprised by and what I really like about Swell is there is a level of authenticity when we talk. I mean, like right now we're talking, there's so much in the way I express my words. And that comes across quite clearly in Swell. And what it ends up doing is it removes a layer of anonymity from the person engaging in the conversation. And I think that is very important in internet culture because I think that anonymity is what like fuels trolls and all the negativity out there. Even all the, it's a great platform. We have had some political discourse conversations and everything. When people from the right wing come, I notice that they at least are a lot more tempered down or like, you know, because it's their voice. I mean, like they're not being that negative overall.
It's very easy to type something with your fingers where your name's not even attached, you know?
Yes, exactly.
So I've noticed that too. I haven't been on Swell for more than a couple of weeks, but already I found it because they contacted me and said, hey, we think this would be great for podcasters. I agree with that. I think I don't know if it fits the lifestyle of some people who are, you know, working full time in an office place. It's hard to listen. It's hard to record. But for somebody interested in audience engagement on a podcast or maybe streamers or things like that, there are a lot of people who could really make great use of Swell. So, I'm not affiliated in any way. I just happen to like the app a lot. And I was glad I ran into you because you have a fascinating career going on. I think you're perfect for my audience. And I'm interested in hearing a lot more about it. I mean, how did you first get into technology in general? You're clearly a technology fan. I want to hear about that.
I guess growing up, my introduction to computers was in 1983. My dad got me I don't know if you remember the Timex Sinclair.
Yeah, I know about the Sinclair, yeah.
Yes. So the Sinclair Spectrum from the original version of it, the ZX Spectrum, my dad got me that computer and that's where it started. So mostly it was games initially. I was like, wow, this is a replacement for my 2600.
Yeah.
But then I spent 5 minutes loading up each game, and I was like, oh, not so. But then I quickly realized the power and what the power of software was. And I also started programming a bit in BASIC, and I learned some BASIC and everything. And clearly, the amount of time I spent with it and how fascinated I was with it I didn't realize it then, but I knew I wanted to, I was totally drawn in towards technology at that point. Interesting side note, I was so drawn into video games and the art of video game programming at that time, and not because I practiced the art of video game programming, but in a weird way, I kind of idolized all the then video game programmers. They were all indies at that time, right? Video game programming in the 80s was all indies, and you had these publishers who hire out these indies to write games for them. I kind of idolized them in some form or the other. I don't know why, but I thought it's so cool that they could make the computer do all these cool things. Yeah. And I said, I want to be a video game programmer. And I was very specific about that.
How old were you when you started programming?
12 or 13. But I didn't do much intense programming at that point. It was very hard to come by good resources, right? The internet wasn't there. So it was I could get my hands on. Yeah. And I did everything in BASIC, and I really desperately wanted to do machine code, as they said, which is assembler, Z80 assembler.
Right.
I think I got a book, but I didn't have, I tried reading. I just went through a bit of reading into it, and it demanded a lot more time than I had at that point. It was high school too. So I didn't really, and that was I wish I could have done that, because that's where all the cool games were written.
Yeah. That's a brutal way to get started too with assembly.
Yes, exactly. Right.
I was a little luckier. We had Visual Basic by the time I was late in high school, and they offered programming classes. So Visual Basic is a nice, very simple way to get in, and that was a lot better.
Oh yeah. Basic is definitely and I really enjoyed the basic bit. Yeah.
So from there, this became a focus for you in college, right?
I have an even more interesting career, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So I wasn't really great in academics. I'm one of those guys who knows the subject matter, but is a very bad test taker.
Oh, okay.
So that's the way I'd like to summarize myself. And so I didn't come out of high school with great grades, and I obviously didn't make it. It's a hyper competitive environment in India, and I didn't make it into any of the universities by merit. So then I kind of pivoted, and I pursued a career in flight training. I wanted to be a pilot, because there seemed like a lot of good opportunities in India at that point. Oh. And I came to the U.S., and in Texas, I learned. I went to flight school. I got my commercial pilot's license. Went back and tried desperately get into the airline industry. What happened was when I chose this as a career, the supply demand was such that there were a lot of jobs, and it looked like a good thing to go and get into. And a lot of people thought like I did, and then by the time I returned, the supply demand curve got inverted. A lot more pilots, fewer jobs. Yeah. And so I was desperately trying to do that. While I always had this affinity towards technology, I got a computer at home, and I was fiddling around and everything. And my dad was very uncomfortable that my career wasn't going anywhere. He's like, maybe you should go to school. And so I started pursuing proper engineering school. And then naturally I leaned towards engineering. I came to Boston, where I did my computer systems engineering. And that's how things ended up.
I didn't really know how that worked in India. It's more competitive the way we would compete over opportunities to go into med school, stuff like that. It's kind of more everything.
Well, I mean, in India, there are a lot of institutions. You can get into a private institution, but eventually, I guess everywhere, it's kind of become a business. So you end up having to pay a lot of money to get into something. They call it they used to call it the capitation fee, which is basically a big donation to get yourself in. I guess we could have afforded to get into one of those, and I think that's one of the best decisions my dad ever made. Was he said, "You did not get in on merit. I'm not going to support you. to get in. So he kind of made me, he said like, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was a very good decision on his, because I would have wanted to continue on with the computer. And that kind of made me reevaluate my options at that point.
Yeah.
But the second time I came around, I was more serious, and I did everything in my power to lift up myself in those academic parts, right?
Yeah, I found that interesting because I went to a tech school here, and we used textbooks that were written for the National Institute of IT in India. So we were using their books, and that was just something I recalled.
No, but one thing about India, though, is they have it's a very populous country, and hence it's very competitive. And what happened in India is the reason you see a lot of computer folks from India is in India, the middle class over there were really desperately trying. They understood the value of education, and there was this whole thing about in the middle class, every parent was hell bent on really getting their kid educated and really trying to get them into a professional career. And at that point, when I grew up, it meant one of two things. Essentially, at the top of the list one was being a doctor, or the second one was being an engineer. Period. Right? Yeah. And the computers are still coming up, but still, it was engineer, and it was all about like, what can you do to really get the best career going ahead? It didn't matter what you were passionate about, all that. It was a hyper competitive focus on that, and as a result, being such a populous country, it was super competitive, and they have these amazing government funded schools called Indian Institute of Technology. I don't know if you've heard of them. They are far and few, and it's like a super hyper competitive one single entrance exam for that, and that decides whether who makes it in. But their alumni have gone on to do great things. If you look at most of the founders, they've come from IITs all around. My friend Arish, he was a founder. He was an IIT alumni, and a lot of alumni I've seen from coming out of those institutions have gone on to do great things. So I guess it's a good system out there.
That's very cool. Working in programming as I have, I didn't do game industry stuff as much as I did things like billing and business management software, government contracting. I've worked with a ton of people who have family in India, and they all have really inspiring stories. I just feel bad for all the travel that everybody has to do to stay in touch with the family and everything. Yeah.
That's it's a 24-hour travel one way. But I think I call Seattle home right now. I mean, most of my life is spent here, and I do go and see family once in a while. My parents also come, but as much as a lot of things India has offered, I do feel that the United States has offered me a much better opportunities. I mean, interesting opportunities. When I was getting into gaming, I would have had nowhere to go in India. Let me put it that way, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't a thing, and I felt the United States offered me all these opportunities. So I wholeheartedly call this my country right now.
Well, you're crushing it here. Good Lord. You're licensed as a commercial pilot. Do you still do anything with that?
No, I don't, unfortunately. And it's been one of my biggest, I really yearn to fly again.
Yeah.
I think after I started, my professional career started in Microsoft after school. And initially I started getting back into flying. And but then I guess I hit my first release, and it demanded a lot of time from me. Yeah. I was working in Encarta Encyclopedia at that time. And I just dropped it at that point. And also 9/11 happened, and I'm actually, my name is Muslim, and I was born a Muslim. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily a practicing Muslim, but I was born a Muslim. And I felt at that point it was best. I didn't want to draw unnecessary attention and unnecessary, unwanted scrutiny.
Yeah.
After the Patriot Act was created and everything, I was like, you know what? Let me just lay low on that aspect. I don't want to unnecessarily get attention.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have done the same thing. That makes a ton of sense. You would have been so perfect for Flight Simulator, but I know that title has moved around from studio to studio outside Microsoft. but it's a shame you haven't worked on that.
I interestingly tried to get in a couple of times into Flight Simulator, and things haven't just worked out. The first time they got someone, I guess they didn't. They found someone better, or I didn't make it at that time. And the second time, they wanted me for another role, and I wasn't interested because it was interesting. It was an interesting thing because having my flying background, it was a natural fit over there.
Yeah.
They were actually downstairs in the building I was working on. I was working on Xbox Sports at that time.
Right. Yeah.
I knew a lot of those guys. Yeah.
So I know you have credits on NFL Fever, NHL Rivals. I mean, how did you move from Encarta to games? Was that sort of seamless?
Oh yeah. So when I wanted to get into games and graphics. Graphics was something that I really loved at that time. And coming out of college, Microsoft paired me up with Encarta. The college recruiting paired me up with Encarta and Microsoft Money, of all things.
Oh.
Those were the two things that I interviewed for. And Encarta seemed like the better one. And being not having, I mean, I was trying to get my H-1B and all of that. And Microsoft seemed like the best bet to get a green card and all of that. And so I didn't pursue a career with other game companies when Microsoft came up with the offer. And I said, all right, let me take this. And Encarta Encyclopedia, honestly, was very interesting, and it really intrigued me. They had enough multimedia aspects, and it was very I really enjoyed working on Encarta Encyclopedia because a lot of times you'd be working on it and you'd come across an article, like they'd say, hey, there's a bug on this article or something. You'll go and you'll try to figure that bug out, and then inadvertently I'd spend the next half an hour reading that article and then taking links. And it's like being on the web, right?
Yeah.
It was very enriching. It was also very enriching to know that I was benefiting kids. Kids really. It's such a good feeling in the end to have that. But I always wanted to get into games, and that's why I tried kind of Flight Sim, and then Xbox came along, and I was trying to see if there was an opportunity, and an opportunity came about because by that time, as somebody who hadn't done a lot of game programming, it was hard to get in, and especially I wanted to do graphics, and the one thing that they kept asking, show me your stuff, right? I mean, what do you have? I did have some personal projects that I could show, but it wasn't anything of release quality or especially in the graphics world, you want to make something that's absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Right.
So I wasn't making it, but and in Encarta, what happened was I was specializing in just user interface, right? A lot of UX and user interface. And so a UI position opened up in NFL Fever, and that seemed like a good opportunity. And that's when I said, all right, let me try out, and was able to get into that. And that's how I kind of got in. And interestingly, I became the UI guy. And as much as I fought it and tried to get into graphics, my strength was in UX and UI. And a lot of designers have approached me and said, you have an innate ability to make good UI and good UI design. So I kind of eventually ended up playing to my strengths and doubling down. And that's what I specialize in, UI systems for games.
Yeah, and I know that's not always the most attractive thing on your way in, but that's so valuable. We don't have nearly enough naturally talented people in that space. I can tell you that much.
I think the other thing is really, far too often, we think we know what we want, and it's sometimes it takes another person to really hold a mirror and say, look, this is what actually you should be, because you're good at it, and this is, and I was very grateful to the people who really kind of did that to me.
Yeah. I know you also got to do some sort of, I don't know if foundational is the right word, but some very important work with the Kinect.
Yeah. So being a UI guy, I was kind of naturally drawn to it because when the iPhone came out in 2007, it was a very defining moment for me. I tell this story, and I didn't realize my passion towards UX until that point. By that time, I'd established myself as a pretty good UI developer. I was working in Forza. When the iPhone came out and I first played around with it, I had my mind blown. And I couldn't sleep for a couple of days. I was like, how is Apple able to achieve this magical experience? And what is it that they're doing that makes it feel so good? Like, why can't Microsoft do something like that? And I couldn't sleep for 2-3 days, like in terms of like my thoughts were kept revolving around that. What is it that makes it a better experience? And I started breaking down the experience and like seeing like what it was that really made for such a good UX. So obviously I was drawn to it from the disruption aspect. It was essentially what it boiled down to was like they took existing technology that they married it, like, capacitive touch. They brought it to a screen from instead of just being on a trackpad. They bought capacitive touch, and then they married it with like super low latency. And they really, when everybody was always talking about the back end and giving the system a lot of resources, they made it a priority to give the UX or the UI a lot more resources so that it will be the star of the show, right?
Yeah.
And these things like kind of stuck with me, and I like kind of like really like held them close. And after I got my first iPhone, I was like really like, what do you call it? Every interaction, I was like taking it apart, saying like, what makes this feel better? And I was fascinated by that whole process of how they disrupted with new technology. And so when Connect came on, I was like, wow, this is the next thing that is going to take us to the next natural, I call it natural user interface. I went from going from controlling a cursor on the screen, right, to a direct touch. It felt like you removed a layer of indirection in the middle. And so when Connect came along, I said, here is another one of those. Let's remove one more layer, like let's connect yourself directly onto the screen. So I really worked, it was my hope that I could work towards making a much more connected, natural user interface. And that's what really drew me into Connect.
And I was a big believer in the Connect because I'm usually an Xbox player first, and the other platforms kind of come second for me. And when I was doing .network at that time here in St. Louis, I went to a couple of conferences in the St. Louis area where people were giving presentations on actually developing for Connect, either as a game developer or for other software purposes. And it was so much more flexible and capable than I even realized, that when I sort of went back home and played with the one connected to my Xbox and tried things like the eventual control you had over the home screen, just using your hands and stuff, it's still kind of stuff we're catching up with VR now. We're only just getting to that point where we go, if you use no controller at all, just gestures with your hands in front of a camera, can we move this menu to the left and right, let you select something? How does it look? I think the Kinect was way ahead and never really got a full chance to do what it could have done.
Yes, the Kinect was way ahead. There were some really cool experiences, a lot of things that came out with it. Honestly, what killed it was, this might sound negative, it was bureaucracy in Microsoft. And also I guess they did not rethink of things from the ground up of what needed to be done. A simple example. Microsoft had gotten so much mileage with Xbox and the whole like achievement system, and all the cool stuff that they had done with the Xbox Live ID and everything. So one of the things they wanted to really try and get right was Face ID with the Kinect. I mean, like basically tying your user profile with your Kinect persona, right? I mean, like as soon as it sees you, it should log you in automatically and things like that.
Right.
So obviously the technology wasn't quite there yet. And what they should have done is when it's not quite there yet is really scrapped the idea and said, yeah, that's a great idea, but we don't have it right yet. And also like reevaluated on to whom Connect is targeted for, right? The general audience. They're really not worried about like getting a profile sign in or getting that achievement score and all of that. But yet the Xbox team, what they did is they wanted to retrofit all of Kinect's sign-in and everything into their existing sign-in stuff. It bothered them a lot to think that the wrong person could be playing a Kinect game and get an achievement score for someone else. And I was like, really?
Enjoy basketball, soccer, and all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using bonus code CAPITAL and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Plus, when you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. Download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and enter bonus code CAPITAL and place your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. Now you're winning with the king of sportsbooks. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Washington, D.C. only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Enjoy basketball, soccer, and all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using bonus code CAPITAL and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Plus, when you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. Download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and enter bonus code CAPITAL and place your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. Now you're winning with the king of sportsbooks. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Washington, D.C. only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Yeah, and just to one of the things that I did in Connect was I worked on connectimals. And one of the things that I kind of rebelled over there, did something rebellious, was I know if you're familiar with, in consoles, you have certification processes, right? And then you have rules that you cannot, and they will ding you on these certification. One of the certification things was the person controlling needs always to be signed in and all of that thing. So I kind of played a passive-aggressive game where in Connectimals, we moved the sign-in to the up very front. When you started the game, you had to sign in, and at that point, we made sure that you're signed in with the right ID and all of that. And after that, I said, let's throw everything else out. The person who's front and centermost gets to control the game. It's a very simple rule. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't take credit. It was one of my colleagues who actually came up with that. I kind of went along with that. And the person front and centermost gets to control that, period. Until today, I don't know, Connectimals is one of the better performing, one of the more magical kind of experiences in Connect. And it's mainly because we removed that hurdle. Kids love it. Yeah. And when they get frustrated, like, Daddy, I can't control this. Mommy, help me with this. The parent can just go in front, right? And then just do something for them and come back. Whereas with other games, as soon as that happens, it says, please sign in. We see that you're not the same person. And that is what killed Connect, in a nutshell. Not this very specific thing, but these sort of ideas, right? That we had to hold our, we have built this and we need to tie everything from Connect onto that. Or it's this whole thing. We have this whole UI that we built for navigating the dashboard, and Connect needs to be able to control everything in that. And you should be able to control. There were these hard and fast rules that were set that didn't make any sense. I said, okay, if it's going to be hard to control that, just allow the user to take the controller, finish it, and then come back, right? Yeah. They made it necessity for all the games to use, to have a controller-free experience in the UI, which kind of killed it. A lot of games struggled with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, for this UI, I don't know if you notice in VR, some of the more successful UI have been the one where they've been able to project your hands into the environment, right, where you see your hands virtually and you interact directly with that. And that was the approach I was pursuing that. But the technology wasn't good enough to make the hands look good at that time, right? Or have the hands be stable enough, or it was a very different paradigm. There was a lot of back and forth, and the people in Xbox opted to go with a 2D cursor, which in my opinion, was the wrong thing to do. And that's the experience they ended up shipping. And the audience was our judge, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But you did manage to get Connect Star Wars done, and that seemed like kind of a feat before you moved on to other games.
Actually, none of my work ended up in Star Wars. I was trying to get the cool 3D hand stuff that I was talking about in Star Wars.
Yeah,
I made a lot of progress, but we couldn't come through in the end with everything. And in the end, they kind of ended up scrapping up and went back to a traditional cursor model. So I don't have much, but I did. Let me see. The crawl in Star Wars. That's my contribution. The crawl.
Yeah.
I can. Yeah. So in the end, so a lot of my work got removed, but in the end, I was able to contribute via the scroll. The crawl. Sorry.
That's still pretty great. So
yeah.
And the biggest two names at Microsoft you got to contribute to were, you're credited on Halo 4 and Forza, which you probably have taken several years of my time.
I'm very thankful that I'm sort of lucky that I kind of ended up there. Turn 10 is where I really stretched my wings. That's the way I look at it. I really pushed myself into more uncomfortable territory. I became... From being a UI developer, I really became a generalist in Turn 10. Mm-hmm. A generalist is probably the best thing you can be in game development, because it means you can, no matter what the area is, you can go in and contribute over there. So be it a little bit of graphics, be a little bit of gameplay, anything, right? Networking. So yeah, so in Turn 10, I had several signature things that I've done. Are you familiar with the livery editor in Forza?
Yes, I have some very popular videos of me using that.
Oh, you'll make me very happy then. That is my personal baby over there.
I love that.
Yeah. So in Forza 1, I joined in Forza 2. In Forza 1, they had already done a livery editor. The UX left a lot to be desired, but they had cracked a lot of... the designer was a really smart guy over there, Bill Giese. He had cracked some of the core aspects of what it means to make such an editor. And then I ran with it, essentially scaling it up in V2 from like 100 layers to 1,000 layers per side, which was... and like a lot more like adding in transparency and a whole bunch of other crucial things that we kind of did really like made it take off, along with, of course, the social aspect, which is the auction house, if you're familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
When did you start playing Forza?
I probably jumped in right at about Motorsport 3, I want to say.
Oh, my favorite, actually.
I loved it, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so... we did the auction house in V2, and then it was a pairing of the auction house. Not only could you create cool designs, you could share it, right? And I didn't do the auction house, but then the pairing of both of those was what really made that feature kind of take off. And in V3, I kind of doubled down on the livery editor, making it a little more like Photoshop in how you arrange the layers and stuff like that. And I think we just like, it took off beyond our wildest imaginations, and especially mine. I think it is one of the most proudest things I've done in my career, that livery editor, and just seeing the designs that everybody made, like, always bring the smile to my face.
I was going to say the greatest testament to how great that editor is going out and seeing not only the designs people come up with, but you can look at YouTube and watch people as they go through their process. They create content just using that editor, and it's fantastic to watch. Oh yeah, it is. It is. Like I said, we had never in our dreams, and when we had introduced in V2, I didn't realize the impact it would have. All the decisions we made weren't like very directed to, we need to make this as like the most used feature or anything like that. Hey, here's a feature that people like, how can we make it better? That's all we did. So we went from 100 layers to 1,000 layers, and it had its pain points, but we kind of made it work eventually, and we never realized what that would kind of unlock. And I think 2 weeks into release, we were seeing these amazing designs. We released in Japan earlier than US, and we have seen these amazing designs come out of Japan, and especially the anime style stuff. Yeah. And
The first one was somebody had recreated a photorealistic portrait of a pop star. And that was literally the jaw-dropping moment of everyone in the studio. Literally, be like, I don't believe this. And I think if I had to pick one day that I was like on cloud nine in my whole entire game developer career, it would be that day when I saw that. Yeah. It was, I can't express the emotions I went through that day.
So, I mean, despite bureaucracy and, working for a giant organization, you accomplished a lot at Microsoft. But at some point from there, you decided to spend some time working on the indie side, just doing stuff by yourself. How did that work?
Microsoft has bureaucracy, but one of the things I really loved about Turn 10 is their studio management was really awesome, and they kind of protected us from the Microsoft bureaucracy. Interesting side note, I've been in and out of Turn 10 multiple times. It's my favorite. It used to be my favorite happy place. And it's the reason it used to be, it still could be, is because I found Tesla. Let me put it that way. I really enjoyed working there. Eventually, the reason I left was I was totally bought into the whole Microsoft Kool-Aid about I saw how awesome they had concocted with the what they had come up with in terms of the Xbox 360 made by gamers for gamers, right? That was what the Xbox was.
Yeah.
And by the time we hit Xbox One, what had happened was a lot of the bureaucracy machine had kicked into the upper echelons of Xbox. And it was evident that Xbox One, developers used to be a first-class citizen. First-party developers used to be first-class citizens with Xbox. And that stopped being the case. And all our tools went from being so awesome to really what? Right? Yeah. Not that Microsoft has eventually fixed that, but leading up to Xbox One and all the PR snafus and what they positioned Xbox One as, it was pretty evident that, Microsoft, the bureaucracy had creeped into this awesome, usually Microsoft is known for getting things right on V3. Usually, Windows, it was the third version that really they got it right. Obviously, they usually had that reputation. Xbox was completely the inverse. They got the first one really right, well enough. And then the second one, they really nailed it. And they totally blew it on the third one. So I didn't really like how the Xbox One was going, and also the direction given to Turn 10. With Forza Motorsport 5, it was one of the things that it was very poorly received on some aspects. Even though as beautiful as it was like a gorgeous game, some of the business decisions to add in excessive amounts of micropayments and all those things, and it all stemmed by the fact that let's start to milk it, right?
Right.
And some of those really didn't sit well with me. It felt like the suits. It's that whole traditional suits versus creatives thing. It felt like the suits were creeping in, right? Yeah. And that's when I said I started complaining more and more. And my wife was the one. I want to hear you stop complaining or leave Microsoft, right? She held a really good mirror to me at that point. Said, you know what? Okay, I'll leave it. And let me try something on my own. And that's when initially I wanted to do educational software, edutainment software for kids, because I had my daughter, and it was so interesting to see her, what she engaged with. How can I make her engage more with things, etc. Sorry, I just got it. Yeah. So that was my big attraction towards that. And in indie games, as an indie, when I started out, I had an interesting idea for a piano tutor app. And that's what I was going to start with. I did some research work on that. And then Flappy Bird happened. I saw the success of Flappy Bird.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't believe this, right? And then I thought, one thing you have to, a lot of people have a lot of hatred towards Flappy Bird because, he just did a simple game and he got away. He was so lucky. But then one thing I realized was it was a really well-polished game, extremely well-polished. Yep. His choice of 8-bit graphics and how he actually, every little thing he did with that game was really well-polished. And I was like, bravo, right? You did a pretty good job. I said, can I recreate that? And I started with down that path. And so an initial idea was I recalled an old Sinclair Spectrum game I played called Wheelie. You ended up going through this maze in this motorcycle, and you ended up finding a Ghost Rider and racing him back. But the core game mechanic that was so awesome in that was you had to do wheelies to overcome these bumps, right? Oh. And every time you did a wheelie, it was a very good feeling. Like you just loved, and even with the puny speaker that the Spectrum had, the sound effects and the way the bike felt really gave you a good rush. And to the point that I remembered this years after, right? I mean, like I still remember the sound goes like, right? And I can relate to that. I'm like, that was a fun experience. So basically I was like, I need to get a hook in. And that was the hook I wanted to rely on. And I want to make a 2D sort of wheelie game. And I started prototyping that, whiteboxing that. And I used Box 2D as a physics engine. And as I was playing around and everything in the whiteboxing phase, I don't know if you probably heard about this, right? People, sure. When they whitebox some things, they usually have an idea of what they're going to whitebox it for. But eventually end up disproving themselves and pivoting into some other direction, because that's where the fun is, or they find the fun somewhere else. Fun is not always where you think you really know where it is.
True.
That's what kind of happened in this case. I found the fun. I mean, the wheelie was fun. I tuned it, but then I found the fun in really like jumping off ramps and doing like these looping stunts and everything, and trying to land the bike. There was a hook over there that I really liked, and I ended up making that game. And interestingly, what I thought would take me a month or something like that, because I said, I'm going to just do what Flappy Bird did. I ended up spending more and more time polishing it and making it good. And I think I ended up taking 6 months or something like that. I ended up writing a really cool engine along with that. And there's a lot of learnings over there. And I'm very proud of the game. It's not very successful in the App Store or it didn't make me a lot of money. But I think it's still, till today, in Apple TV, it keeps entering the top 100. It's around number 50 or something like that, and keeps going back. It comes in and raises the number 50 and then keeps going back. It's big in Apple TV. I don't know why.
But really, that's great. I mean, if you found a chart to rank on anywhere, that's pretty outstanding, especially for your first time out. I had a very similar experience, because when I left commercial software development to go indie, help raise my son, start doing this stuff, I also found a passion for, stuff that was educational, stuff that would benefit my kid and hopefully other kids. And I came up with something very simple I wanted to do to sort of help my son go through his ABCs, and 1 month turned into almost exactly 6 months. And I thought it was impressive because I used Lua scripting instead of like Unity. But I mean, you really started from the ground up and made your own game engine for this. I saw you comment about this somewhere online, and I was so impressed by that, particularly that Apple TV example you gave when Unity would have been sort of waiting to launch a new platform to build on. You were able to just get into your own code, put in what you needed, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, I think one thing you have to applaud Apple on are their developer relations are pretty good, actually. They do a pretty good job of stringing along their developers. As a developer developing on that platform, I have really good things to say about them. When they introduced the new Apple TV, they said developers can apply for this program, and I applied for it right away. And I don't know what their qualifying criteria was. Maybe you needed to have an app already on the App Store or something else. But I got selected, and I think a lot of people got selected for that matter, right? And it only cost me $1 for. I paid $1, and they sent me the dev kit.
Wow!
Which was like essentially release version Apple TV, with the caveat that I think I might have to return it someday, but they never asked for it back. And so I think that's pretty cool. And they just put it out there, and porting it was really not that hard. The biggest challenge I had porting it was going from a touchscreen to the trackpad on the remote. So I needed the focus notion. But then again, I'm the UI guy, not a big deal for me. And I don't know if you played Apple TV's Motor Wheelie on the Apple TV. even though I have my own engine and my own UI system, it feels very much like a first-party experience where I stuck to the same UX language that Apple TV prescribed, like how the tiles move and how you move your focus around and everything.
Yeah.
So the editors, I guess, like that, which is one of the secrets for developing for mobile is you need to appease the editors and you got to actually do something for their platform.
That's true. Yeah. Did you ever do any version of kind of packaging the game engine you made on its own for any other purposes?
I have an agenda in the back of my mind to do that. I don't think I can succeed with that until I write an editor for my game engine. My game engine, it's more of a UI engine actually, because that's my background and that's what I wrote it. That's what I wrote it as. Till to date, I can confidently say that there isn't a good gaming UI solution. All the solutions don't appease what I'm looking for. My UI engine is a true 3D UI engine, and it is heavily data driven. And I have some unique ideas with how you can develop UI and script UI in that. So I still have hope that someday I might release it, but the biggest hurdle for that is I need a layout tool or like an editor where you can easily. So all the UI in my game was literally are you familiar with XAML, WPF?
Yeah, a little bit.
Little bit, yeah. So my UI engine resembles very much like XAML, like it's got an XML sort of a markup representation, and everything was handwritten in that. So until I can get a proper editor going, I don't think I'll ever release that. But once that happens, I have ideas. Maybe I might open source it out and release it as something that people can freely use. But if they're making some really serious money, they need to pay up. I think that's pretty fair enough, right?
I think that's a fair model that we see every once in a while. And it's nice to have a project like that on standby. So, I mean, that's pretty good for you.
Oh, hopefully. Yeah.
But so you get started with Tesla, and I know that now you're part of the team that brings games to the cars. Mm-hmm. Did you start doing that when you first got there?
No, I actually I joined Tesla to actually make the UI workflow a lot better. That was what we were hired to do. There's me and a bunch of others over here in the Bellevue office. We're part of a bigger team in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
We quickly ramped up on Tesla, where it was a big cultural shock coming into Tesla. In Tesla, people are expected to pretty much be very self-sufficient. I mean, like you don't rely on others, and you don't go to others. Hey, I need this done. Can you do this? I mean, like you don't have very clear marked boundary of this is your specialty and this is my specialty. And it took me a while to get used to it. Long story short, we just and also the other thing is Tesla is really agile, and part of agile is really about changing your focus and pivoting as necessary, as quickly as possible, as to really what the demand is and where you need to be, what you need to release, right? And Tesla is truly agile from that aspect. And so I didn't end up doing what I ended up joining for. And at some point, at that point, Tesla had just released the Atari games. I don't know if you're familiar with the history with Tesla. They started by releasing, taking a bunch of Atari games, Missile Command, Missile Command, Centipede, and other the likes of other games, and they just put it in MAME and they just ported it over to the system, and they had an experience that wasn't really good. It was a window it was in a smaller window, and the touch controls were very janky.
Oh,
if I may say so. So at some point, my boss asked me to go in and asked me to bring in more games and see if I could make it less janky. And that was the first thing that was given to me. And what ended up happening was the menu itself was very janky. And have you seen much of the games experiences from Tesla?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so in those days, I mean, earlier we had Easter egg tray, which is you have to approach it like an Easter egg. When the about box, you can slide it down, and then it reveals all these cool things you can do with the car. And one of them was this MAME game emulator. And then you put that, and it opens up a window, and it looks like an arcade cabinet. And within the arcade cabinet, you had the game, and then there was a drop down, and you picked which game you wanted in the drop down and changed. It's not very gamey, right? In games, you'd require a lot more pizzazz, and it's a very different approach completely. Or even for that matter, it wasn't a first-class experience, even from an app launcher standpoint. So one of the first things I did was I made a really nice app launcher where I brought in all the logos of the games that were there, whether it was Asteroids or Missile Command. I went back, I got the original logos, got those in there, put them in a really nice list that was a lot more attractive, and made it. Again, I mean, I brought in all my experience with making good UX into that, and made a much better, really a much better first class experience with the launcher for these, and made the screens full screen, and also solved the problem of the reason they didn't want to go full screen was they didn't want people to get stuck in the full screen and figure out how to change games or get out of it. And so I made a little menu bar on top that was very clear how you could exit on top, like with an X, or like a small hamburger menu that kind of like took you back to the menu launcher. And so little things, right? Very straightforward things that you could do, but it really improved the experience. Having seen that, at that point, Elon wanted games in the cars. And we were like, what do we do? How do we go about this and everything? And at some point, we were like, we should do 2048 and things like that. But at some point, we were discussing, I was in Palo Alto at that time visiting, and my boss somebody was telling him, you know what, we should do 2048. It's so easy. I can do 2048 in a couple of days, or we should get somebody to do blah, blah. And my boss just turned to me and said, all right, Shammi, I want you to do 2048. Right? And I said, are you serious? Right? Because until then we didn't have a concept of first party games or anything like that. I said, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, serious. And I went and I made 2048, and we released 2048. And 2048 being 2048 is has mass appeal, and was very successul.
I do love 2048.
I've spent a lot of time in 2048, so it was natural for me to I can go ahead and do it. Initially, I did try getting things done the Tesla way, where we go and look to see what is the quickest way to get it done. Is there an existing open source project, and what's the best way? And I deemed that it was quickest for me to write than port over something. So I wrote it. It didn't take me that long. 2048 is pretty simple. And that's how the first party gaming division of Tesla was born. And I am the main guy doing that right now. If you ask me my job is first party interactive entertainment in Tesla. That's what I do. Gotcha.
So how many games are there total now?
How many games? I don't know the exact number. We have I think around 5 to 6 main games. And after that, we've been releasing some games regularly. So I released, from just the board games aspect, we released 2048, then chess, then backgammon. Those were all the board games, first party board games. And then going to third party or second party, we had Beach Buggy Racing. It's an iOS game that's very much like Mario Kart. We released that. Followed by Cuphead, it's a brutal game, but we did release that, and we got it running at 60 frames a second, and you can control it via the controller in the car. Then we had Stardew Valley.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, then we have Fallout Shelter, and those are the games. Yeah, that's it pretty much. We're always looking at other games and seeing what we can bring in, and beyond that, I can't talk much about what's in store. But Elon is a big gamer. He's a gamer. He likes to see games. And the other thing is we look at Tesla as when the car starts driving by itself, we want to cover all bases, which is productivity, creativity, and entertainment. And within entertainment, there's the streaming entertainment, and then there's interactive entertainment.
Yeah. Well, what started as a very small little demo seems like it expanded into something great. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
Back on the indie side, is there anything else you want to, sort of work on or accomplish in the near future on that side?
I have an update to Moto Wheelie, which has a lot more like a more structured handheld level release. I mean, when I made Moto Wheelie, the game that I had, I made it a game for myself. And one of the things, as much as I'm a game developer, I'm not a serious gamer. I like I used to love the simplicity of games in the 80s, in the olden days.
Sure.
But one of my favorite games used to be Arkanoid, for example, right? I love the simplicity. I like all the remixes that they bring in, and like really, I think that I find the elegance of building something simple, right? And just like having it be a hit, really. I find that a lot more appealing. And I built Moto Wheelie for myself from that standpoint, right? And what I've come to realize from all the telemetry I've gotten and from all the feedback I've gotten is people want more. They want more content. They want more, they want to be taken to the next level. And so that's what I've been working on. I have it almost working. As a matter of fact, the game is almost complete, I should be saying. It's got like a lot of levels where you have to where you're expected to it's basically, think of it as a checkbox of a lot of levels that you can just progression, right? You have a lot more progression. It gets harder, and you have very more handcrafted achievements or things that you have to do. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of time to tune 33 levels and really tune them. And I've never gotten around to them. It's almost done. And with that, I also have a kind of an in-app purchase kind of scheme, because advertising might not really, and I've been kind of sitting on it for the longest time. And I hope at some point I can release that. I have 3 other projects that I kind of started that have gone past the white boxing phase, and that are pretty compelling, actually. And again, as an indie, it takes a lot of time and effort. And if there's a feeling for me as a startup is I haven't figured out building a team. That's where I need to really grow. I need to build a team. I need to team up with others and get others. I have had people work on Moto Wheelie to help me out on a contract basis. Yes, I've kind of been successful, but I really need to build a team that would stick around with a project and really work on that. I think that's what I need to achieve my next goal.
Nice. So you got a plan laid out. I like that. So is there anywhere people can follow what you do online, or are you active on Twitter or anything like that?
My handle on Twitter is @Shammabeth, SHAMMABETH. My website is ngiti.com. I think that's the name of my company, INJITI. If anything, if you're giving me the opportunity to plug, is that what this is? Totally, yeah. Yeah. Then I would ask them to try out my game, Moto Wheelie. You can go to motowheelie.com, MOTOWHEELIE.com. You can go there, and it'll lead you to the download. It's only available on iOS. I have an Android version, but I haven't gotten around to releasing it. I was hoping I would release the updated version. If I get around to it, it'll be great. But please do download that. Try it out. You might enjoy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for entertaining us with these stories and such. I know people will enjoy this, and we'll look forward to checking back in with you after the next couple of phases and see what you're up to.
Hey, Todd, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and really allowing me to talk about all of this. It was really nice.
Pleasure's all mine.
Congratulations on your game dev breakdown, whatever that is. Sounds idiotic to me.